Hi, I'm Sarah from This Kelly Girl Sews. I'm a fabric lover and upcycling addict. I sew clothes from scratch and turn tired wardrobe items into new exciting garments. If you love creative makes and clothes with personality, stick around and let's make something fabulous. Today's project is actually going to be an upcycle. Basically, I had an old skirt in my wardrobe that I no longer wore. It was old-fashioned, but the fabric was fabulous. It was a faux suede, dark green, just below knee-length skirt with a slight bias cut on the bottom. And here's what I made. A swingy top with a removable feather trim. Watch the rest of the video and you can find out how I did it. Click like below and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. The first thing I did, as I do with any fabric, is actually to just find out what stitch length and tension I needed on the machine, and also what needle to use. This is a tricky fabric, so I recommend you doing that. So before I actually do anything, what I'm going to do is try out some stitches and some needles onto this fabric, because it's a very heavy, almost like a scuba fabric. It's very stretchy. It's a knit fabric, but then obviously with the faux suede on the main side. So I started off with a universal needle, which was absolutely no good at all. As you can see, the top stitch is coming through on the bottom there. So then I tried a stretch needle, and I managed to get it not too bad, but I did have to change the tension. I mean, all of them on the top look pretty good, but then when you get the underside, they don't look quite so good. So I've ended up with a microtex needle, stitch length of 2.6, and a tension I have to wind up right to 7.5 to actually get it so that you don't get too much of the top thread actually coming out beneath, because obviously that was the starting point, and that's pretty much my finishing point, I think. So we're going with the microtex, as I said, stitch length of 2.6, and my tension is up to 7.5 on the top thread. So I've just laid the skirt out to see what fabric I have and if there's any marks or stains or anything. There is one slight stain there. I think that will probably wash off. And I've got a back pattern piece of quite a basic top. So I just want to lay this down on the fabric just to make sure that I'm going to be able to get the back piece out of one side and then the front piece out of the other, which I think I'm going to be able to do. So the next plan of action is actually just to split the skirt down the side seams so that I've got a back and front to work with. Neither the back or the front actually have a seam in it, so I'm not going to end up with a seam down the back or the front. And I don't want too much shaping other than the bias of the actual bottom of the skirt. So first of all, let's just cut down the side seams of the skirt. Once I've done this, there's no turning back. There's actually a zip on this side, but I don't want to utilise the zip on this occasion, so I'll just cut to one side of it. So that's the skirt separated, so I now have a back and a front. So let's take one piece and actually just make sure there's no stains or anything on that. There's a couple little marks, but I'm not going to worry about that. And then we need to just fold it in half so that we can cut out the back and the front pieces. So I'm going to ignore the darts up here, because if I take them out, they'll mark the fabric. So I just need to completely ignore them, and obviously the seams. It's going to have seams going across it, but it just sort of adds to the interest of the actual top. So if we take the back piece here, now I know this fits me pretty well, so if I just move to there's obviously a seam allowance there, but I don't want that on the neck. And then that goes like that. And then what I'll do is actually cut this down so that it's a little bit more of a swing shape. So if I just get some chalk, I use the Crayola chalk, the kids chalk, I think it was $1.99 for a huge pack. And it comes in all different colours. That one's broken already, so that's fine. So I can just basically draw around my pattern for the back. Now I want to take the shoulders in slightly, so what I'll do is just bring that shoulder seam in slightly, and that goes down there, and then we're just gonna take that down. Let's even take that slightly wider so that we've got that lovely swing at the back. So that's going to be the back, so I can cut the back out. The good thing about this faux suede fabric is it doesn't actually fray, so I could just not finish parts of it. So that's the back. That's the back of my top. It's got a slight mark over there, which I hope will wash out. If not, we'll find some way to cover that up. So that's the back. So I just need to do exactly the same with the front. So I need to do exactly the same with the front now. So again, fold it over. Just give it a bit of a shake out because I want to keep the yoke of it as flat as I can. And then the front I've actually got is a princess cut. So I'm just going to close up the seam there with some double-sided tape, and then it will allow the shape of the bottom of it. So if we put the seam allowance on the seam allowance with a bust, and then that needs to go on the fold like that. But obviously we want a bit more of a flare, and then we can use the flare here. So that's the front piece put on, the centre front, around the neck. So shoulders, I want to take the shoulders in, as I said, so it can be like that, and then take the side seam down like that. You can measure the length of the side seam and everything once you've cut it all out, but we're just trying to utilise as much of the fabric as we can at the moment. So if we remove the pattern piece, you can have a look at the piece just to make sure that it's quite a good shape, which it is. So then pattern piece. So now have a front and a back. So first of all, we'll just sew the shoulders together. I'm actually going to use clips on this fabric because it's going to be easier. So just clip the shoulders together. Like so. So I'm going to sew those together to start with, and then pin down through the sides just to see the shape of it, and whether I need to take any of the fabric out of the bottom, because that is very, very flary at the moment. I've sewn the shoulders together of my top, so the back and the front are sewn together at the shoulders. I've pinned down through both sides now, so I'm just going to have a little try on just to see what it actually looks like. So I've just turned it in the right way. So there's the basic top. I think the swing is all right. I may take it in very slightly just on the sides, and also just on the sides there, just to make it a bit more fitted. Lengthwise, it's not too bad. I just need to even it off a little bit on the bottom, and then work out how I'm going to fit the feathers and the fur on. So I've just tried it on, so I'm just going to basically mark down through here. So I want to take this in slightly under the arms, and then I want a slightly narrower swing on the actual bottom as well. So do that on both sides, just mark so slightly on the arm and then slightly on the swing as well. Then I can try that on, I pin that on the new line, and then obviously try that on again and see what the fit is like. If it's what I like, then we can just stitch down through the sides. So now I'm just finishing off the neck and the armholes by sewing bias binding around them, just to make them look a little bit more finished. This fabric doesn't actually fray and the edge looks quite good, so I could actually have just left it, but I've decided just to make it look a little bit more finished and just sew the binding tape around the neck and the armholes. So we pretty much finished the top now. We've done bias binding around the armholes and around the neckline. So if I just turn it in the right way, you can see that I don't need to finish the bottom because of the type of fabric this is. So it is actually finished, and when I try it on, it does actually look quite cool just as a plain top. Does need a bit of an iron around where the binding is. But what I need to do now is fix on the trim. So I have, move this out of the way, I have a mix of feathers and fur. So I'm thinking I'm going to double up the feathers, so I'm going to basically sew 2 rows together just to thicken it up. So if you see the difference between 1 row and 2 rows, it's much thicker with the 2. So I'm going to first of all just double up the feathers so that they're thicker, and then I'm going to see how that looks, and if it's not thick enough, I'm going to add some fur in as well. So let's just start by sewing the feathers together. So I have doubled up the feathers now, so they look much fuller and nicer. So I'm going to make them removable, and I have this tape that has poppers all the way down through, as you can see the holes there. So it's basically in 2 parts. So I can sew 1 part onto my feathers and then 1 part onto the bottom of the hem, and that makes the feathers detachable, so that I'm able to wash the top by removing the feather trim, so I don't actually wreck the feather trim when I put it in the wash. So that's the plan. So I'm going to sew 1/2 onto the feathers and then 1/2 onto the underside of the skirt, so that the feathers come out from underneath. I just changed my foot because I did have the AccuFeed foot on, which is just a little bit wide. So I put the zipper foot on now, so that I've got a narrow side and a wide side, and that should make it easier to attach the popper trim. So if we put that under there, and then we can sew right down the edge of the poppers without interfering with the actual sticky up bits. So you have to do it slowly and carefully so that you don't actually stitch over any of the poppers. And I'll go down both sides of that and then do exactly the same on the inside of the bottom of the top. So now we have the tape sewn on the bottom of the top, and also the tape sewn onto the feathers. What you have to do now is basically fasten the poppers onto the bottom of the top all the way around. And then once you've fixed it all the way around, then it looks like that. So I've just clipped the feathers all the way around the bottom there. So the top is finished now, apart from just needs a bit of pressing just around the neck and the armholes, but I'll just make sure that's folded down. But there we go. There's a really cute little swingy top. So this is the top on. So you can see it's just a nice round neckline and cutaway on the sleeves. The back is just plain. And then you've got the little flippy hem at the bottom, which is just really cute. This is obviously with jeans, but if you wore it with some sequin trousers or some nice black velvet trousers, it would look quite cool. And I'm really loving it. I think I'm going to get a lot more wear out of it at the top than I did, certainly in recent years, as a skirt. So I hope you enjoyed my video. Please like below and obviously follow me. I'm going to be uploading more regular videos from now on, both upcycling, like this project today, and also some other makes as well. Got some exciting upcycling projects coming in the next few weeks, so please don't forget to follow me and maybe just ring the bell just to make sure that you get alerted when I upload something new. Also follow me on Instagram, This Curly Girl Sews, where I upload nearly all of my projects and upcycles. Thanks for watching today, and I'll see you soon. Bye.